the Nurses Doing GAMSAT podcast, brought to you by Thankflip GAMSAT. We're here to teach you how to smash the GAMSAT, get into medicine, and become a flippin' great doctor.
Hello and welcome back to the Nurses Doing GAMSAT podcast by Thankflip. I'm Dr. Tom, founder and CEO of Thankflip GAMSAT. I'm joined by the co-founder, Marie, our amazing, she does all sorts of things.
What do I do? I don't really know.
She does so many. You do amazing mindset, you accountability, you do strategy sessions, kicking butts, taking names, all sorts of things.
Hi, I'm Marie. Have you seen those memes where it's like one person does everything and then the other person's like, hi, it's me? Or it's like it's not a meme, sorry, it's like TikToks. And it's just like one is the extreme organizer and the other person just comes along for the ride. I'm not saying who's who here, okay? I'm not saying, nope, not pointing any fingers here.
For those who don't know, we're also married, Maria.
Oh, yes, we should probably mention that.
So the relationship is a little bit different than your usual podcast duo. So we're here to talk about how to prepare where to start your GAMSAT preparation. And, we're recording this in the thick of our house being renovated. So we are, if you're watching this on video, we are in temporary accommodation at the moment. The background's a little bit different than usual, where we're hoping to get our toilet and our bathroom and our kitchen installed in the next week or so.
Currently, the toilet literally is just like a pipe in the wall. Like, it's like, obviously we're not using it, but like it ain't looking good right now. How it's all going to get done, I don't know, but
an empty room.
It's a shell.
It's a shell.
It's a shell.
We're getting a brand new one put in end of this week. Yeah, Monday.
No, on Monday.
Okay, next week.
Install it. That's an important day. Monday is
important day.
The angels come out of the ground, the birds are singing, the sun is shining.
That's it. Yeah, trying to get all the trades moving, and while also helping people get started for the September GAMSAT, because it is that time of the year where you got to be preparing, getting set up. I mean, we just couple cool things happening in our ecosystem here. We've just, I don't know if you saw, but Marie actually recorded a podcast episode about how to study for the GAMSAT if you have ADHD. A lot of people come to us say that they struggle with that, especially nurses. It's a big problem. And so Marie reached out to this expert and got her on the podcast. So if that's you, if you're concerned about that, you can't focus, you set intentions, but you never don't meet them. You get distracted, procrastinate, mind's bouncing around. You seem to forget everything that you've just read. It might be worth looking at that, listen to that podcast. The last one, that's the episode 22.
Oh, and Zena is amazing. You'll love her. She is from a place called Navigating Adult ADHD. So big shout out to them because she has done a phenomenal job of just making everything really simple in steps that you can follow. Yeah, it was such a pleasure to kind of interview her. She's also a cat lover like me. She has her own cat. So we talked about cats just ever so slightly. But I have been super busy within Thankflip because so many students are coming to us at the moment just asking this like massive question, like, where do I start? I don't know where to start. Or actually I spoke to this wonderful, beautiful student. She actually lives quite close to you. I won't say her name. She lives in Woodford, which is quite close to where I am. And she's like, I've been thinking about this for ages. I've been like literally seriously considering doing the GAMSAT for 8 months. I kind of looked at the exam in January, but I just don't know where to start. Like, what do I do? And I was like, okay, we got to talk about this. And so we stepped it out step by step. And that's kind of inspired us to do this podcast today because there is a proper way to get started. Like there really, really is.
But let's start with the not proper ways, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there, and it's important to start with that because you're probably sitting there going, I have some ideas, or I kind of think what I should do, and we want to clarify what not to do, and then we'll obviously talk about what to do and why, and then we'll give you resources and things to actually do it. So why don't we start by talking about the common mistakes when starting your GAMSAT prep? Because there are three main ones. Marie, do you want to go through the first one?
Oh, the first one is don't start with content revision. Like
Yeah.
most
And
people come to me and they're like,
it's like,
oh, all the time. Most people think I'm just going to go and I'm going to get some like year 12 science textbooks, or I'm going to go on Khan Academy. And I love Khan Academy. I don't think it's a bad thing. It doesn't teach you GAMSAT science. It teaches you science. And it's not the same thing, because the GAMSAT requires you to implement skills. It doesn't require you to rote learn. So the number one thing that I see kind of go wrong is that people just dive in. And what happens is you go too far into the content. So too far into learning organic chemistry or learning physics, thinking you need to know everything. And you just don't need to know everything. And to be honest, it's not fun. Like, it's not motivating, and you
and
don't get
go on
more practice
tangents.
questions
Yeah.
right.
You get caught up in studying the wrong things, and this is common, and it's disappointing because I mean I did it as well the first time I did it. You get, maybe it's even a book that has GAMSAT stuff on the front of it, but that's not what's going to help you, because then you'll do some questions a month or two later and realize that it was all a big waste of time. So I know it makes sense to start with by revising content, but not with the GAMSAT, and we'll talk about why in a second. So just bear that in mind. The first big mistake that we see is starting by just revising content. All right. The second big mistake is falling into the trap of endless research.
Oh, this is where
Researching
this
GAMSAT.
student, that's what she was doing. She was like, I've been looking at it since January, and it's like June now. And I'm like, oh man, you've just been looking and looking, but not doing.
Yeah. And look, there's a sense of, you want to find the right way, or what's the best way to prepare. And I understand that you want to be very conscientious and do the right thing. But the thing is that the research isn't study, unfortunately. And so we need to start taking action, start taking steps. And we're going to show you how to do that here today. So that's the second mistake, which is endless research. So if you've been in that trap, I'm glad that you're here, and it's time to stop. And now's the time to stop. And we'll show you what to do instead.
And then the last thing is really forgetting that it's GAMSAT and not just Section 3. Because like heaps of my allied health people are like, oh, I'm freaking out about Section 3. And they just want to talk about Section 3, and they just want to talk about physics and organic chemistry and all the stuff that they kind of don't like doing. But like half the exam is also Section 1, Section 2. So we don't want to do the thing where it's like, I'm going to spend 8 weeks on Section 3, and then 8 weeks on Section 1, and then 8 weeks on Section 2. And what happens is that the 8 weeks for Section 3 ends up being, 12 weeks, and then the rest are kind of squeezed into the last 4 weeks. Doesn't work that way. We need to really remember that, Section 1 and Section 2 are not only like half your score, but it's just as important to be able to focus on all three sections and get them done at the same time.
Just like with Section 3, there are skills. In Sections 1 and 2, there are skills that you can't cram for. You can't just kind of get in the last few weeks or few days. Writing essays, the right types of essays for the GAMSAT is important. And then Section 1 is almost like another potential rabbit hole of different topics
it's a beast
to go through, but it does require skills. And so it's important to kind of to have more of a thorough and a strategic approach to all three sections. All right, so those are the three common mistakes that we see. Just to recap, the first one was starting by doing content revision. I understand that that's a logical way, but there's a better way to do it. Number two is falling into the trap of endless research and constantly researching the best way to prepare for the GAMSAT rather than actually doing the study. So that stops today. And number three is underestimating Sections 1 and 3, getting caught up in Section 3 and forgetting about 1 and 2, thinking I'll be okay, or I'll figure that out later. So we need to address them all. And so this happens, and people fall into these traps and make these mistakes because the GAMSAT is different to your usual university GAMSAT, university exams. And so the mistake that people make is that they assume that it's kind of the same, and so they study for it the same way. But there are some differences. Marie, do you want to go through those?
The biggie is it is not a knowledge-based exam. I'm going to say this until I'm blue in the face. If you've heard me talk about this before, I apologize, but I'm going to really, really hammer it home today. Most universities exams are like, here's the textbook, study the textbook, and then we'll ask you questions from the textbook.
Yeah.
But the GAMSAT's like this. Here's the textbook, learn the textbook, then let's just throw it in the bin because it ain't worth anything. And we're going to ask you something totally freaking different. So, like, understanding the difference between studying with a knowledge-based kind of intention or studying with skill acquisition techniques is vital. Now, if this is the first time you've heard me talk about skill acquisition techniques, go to episode 3 of this podcast and I really break down step by step how to build a skill, what it is you need to do, and it's not just practice questions. So what to do instead of just smashing practice questions to make sure that you're actually building the skills and not just wasting time doing practice questions or wasting time learning the content. So episode 3, I'm sure in the show notes we can link that as well, Tom. Like, you don't need to stop listening to this episode, but after this one, go directly down to episode 3, and I explain the skill acquisition techniques. It's gold. I highly, highly recommend it. It's going to save you a lot of time, a lot of heartache.
Yeah, that's it. I was just laughing when you were talking because I was remembering a time when we were running an information session at the University of Sydney about the GAMSAT, and someone kind of raised their hand and said, yeah, the questions are not the same as uni, because usually the GAMSAT question, they kind of have a bit of a laugh, and they said the GAMSAT questions are kind of like, if X is greater than Y, what is the distance from here to Mars? It's crazy. Or have if dogs have 4 legs and fish have no legs, what is the weight of an atom? You know, it just is really unexpected. And they'll give you a graph and table, and you got to figure it out. So it's not about memorizing that knowledge and then rehashing it, and it's not even about applied knowledge, right? Because science students can do all of that, but they're still getting low scores here. It's about the what Marie's talking about, the skills, the ability to pull it apart and work with it. And so with that in mind, that means that there's no safe zone content to study. So if people are like, what are the topics I need to know? There are some topics that you do need to know, right? But knowing those topics is not what's going to get you a high score. So it's not like what are the equations that I need to memorize? And people ask me this all the time. Do I need to memorize equations? You don't need to memorize them, but you need to know how to use them. Because the GAMSAT, they'll give you the equations. They'll give you the most of them. You have to know some basic ones, like acceleration due to gravity, momentum equations, those types of things, which we cover in our bridging course. But it's more about being able to use them, because the GAMSAT will give you two equations, and then they'll mash them up and give you this Frankenstein weird one, and you're like, what the hell is this? So you need to be able to use them. And so there's no kind of, what I'm saying here is that there's no kind of list of content, particularly for things like section 1, right? There's no read these books, read these 20 books.
Tom, this is why people tell me all the time, I'm just reading widely. And I'm like, that ain't helping. It's not a reading test. It's not a reading test. It's a comprehension test. So we've got to build the skills that are going to teach you how to interpret symbolic poetry or analyze narrative text or go through those long journal articles they give you or art interpretation. There are skills behind that. And once you learn those skills, then it doesn't matter which symbolic poem you get. You just apply the skills. But it's when people think, oh, I'm just going to read widely. It's like, every time someone says that, I feel like I like clutch my pearl strings and I'm like, oh, dramatic 1950s moment there. But like, why? Think of the kids, It's really not helpful.
Like in section 3 where you revise the content. It seems to make sense, right? Read widely, and even ASA say that. But they write the exams. They don't tell you how to prepare for them. That's what we've done. And reading widely, it's like, what do you read? What do you do while you're reading? How do you make sure that what you're reading is going to be relevant, or you're actually developing some skills that'll help? And so it's more about what you do while you're reading and what you do with it. That's really important, and how you think through it and the systematic approach that you take to it.
I feel like anyone who's recommending reading widely and says that it helped them, I feel like they have unconscious competence. Have you heard of this? Maybe I can go through it. Do you think we have time today, Tom?
Yeah.
There's this. So I got a background in teaching, and there is these steps to competencies. to learning how to do something, right? And I like to use the example of learning how to drive a manual car, because, or learning just any car, to be honest, but manual
I
because
think
it's
that's a
harder.
great example because most people probably can't drive manual.
Yeah. So what happens is when we're born, our mum and dad in this day and age, maybe not when I was a kid, but in this day and age, put you in a nice little capsule seat. You get in the car and you go from one place to another and you don't know how it happened. So you have unconscious incompetence. You don't know what you don't know at that stage. You're just like, hey, bazingo, I got home. Great. Wonderful. Now, when you get to like my daughter's age, she's 7, she knows we get in the car, mama drives, and we get to where we want to go. But she doesn't know how to drive yet. So she's got conscious, she's aware she doesn't know how to drive, incompetence, she doesn't know how to do it. She can see there's pedals, she can see there's a steering wheel, but doesn't know what to do with it. Then you get to 16 years old, right on my birthday, I got my L's. It was like first one at the RTA, that's what they called it in New South Wales. I probably changed it now, but at the RTA, got my license at 16. And what happened was what we call the ouch zone. You go from incompetence to competence, because sometimes it hurts to learn something new, right? And you go to conscious competence. You know what you're doing, but you're thinking about every single step. So you're like, oh, the clutch is going in and I've got to change it from first to second gear, and where are the revs and what's happening in my rearview mirror and when am I putting my blinker on 30 meters before the traffic light. Like, you know every single rule and you're thinking about it all. And to drive when you're 16, 17 years old takes a lot because you've got to think about every single step. But you're doing it. You're competent. You got the skill doing it. Then the next stage is like my university days, okay, when I was... Have I got you there? Oh, looks like everything closed. Oh. Sorry, it just looked like everything closed off my computer. So what happened in my university days is that I would drive and I'd be like talking on the phone. This was a long time ago, okay? It was legal back then. But I'd be like driving, talking on the phone, had my Maccas in the front seat of the car.
Yeah. Not even thinking about the gear changes, just doing them.
No, I was competent, but it was like unconscious competence. It's so well ingrained in me that I don't even need to think about it anymore. It just happened. Like, I can't tell you right now how many revs the car needs to be at to change the gear. My brain and my legs and my hand just knows to change the gear. And in fact, I have such unconscious competence because I drove a manual car for so long. I don't drive a manual car anymore. But when I go to visit my father-in-law and I get in his zippy little manual, I don't know how, it just goes. And if you asked me to teach you, I couldn't teach you because there's all these micro steps that I'm taking that I'm unconscious about. So with the unconscious competence, you know how to do it, but it's really hard to teach someone else because you don't know all the steps you're doing. It just happens. And we all have that. I mean, everybody has that moment when you've been driving for so long that you drive home from work really tired and you think, did I stop at that red light? Like, did I really do that? And yes, you did. You followed the road rules because it's all in your noggin, but you're not consciously doing it. And so when people say read widely, it worked for me, what's actually happening to them is it's like they had all of these unconscious competencies anyway, and then they're applying it to the text that they're reading without thinking about it, and they can then recreate that in the test environment. Yeah. But if you can't go from unconsciously competent or unconsciously incompetent to unconsciously competent without going into that consciously competent, that learning stage, going through your L's, going through your P plates. Like, you need the time on the road to be able to go through the red light and not remember it, or stop at the red light, I should say. You probably didn't go through it, but to stop at the red light and not remember it. And so it frustrates me because you want to prepare in a way that it's a step-by-step process rather than trying to shortcut. There's no shortcuts in learning a skill. There's no like little drive that we can implant in our brains yet. Watch this space, Elon Musk, right? But like, there's no little implant we can put in right now to learn it without going through the steps of learning it.
Yeah, and it works the same way for section 3. People come to us and say, hey, I just did practice questions and I got a great score on section 3. Well, that's because they had all these skills and all this knowledge before they even got there, did some questions, dusted it all off, and away they go. But for the rest of us human beings, we have to do the work to develop those
Damn
skills
it.
and knowledge. I mean, at least that was my situation, and I know a lot of people we speak to in that same state.
If you've got unconscious competence, fantastic, but you probably wouldn't be listening to a podcast about the GAMSAT. You probably already would have done it.
Yeah,
And gone well. Like, that's the reality. It's not someone who really wants to do it and isn't going well or hasn't done it before. It's unlikely. Like, maybe one or two people, great, but like most people, we just gotta, like, I'm like you, I'm just a regular human.
Yeah, and so this kind of leads to the fact that GAMSAT is as much about endurance and mindset in the lead up to the exam as the stuff you're actually learning. Because there are all these, it's so different, and people go up against challenges and disappointments, and then life doesn't stop just because you're doing GAMSAT. You've still got shifts and bosses and exercise, and you got to sleep and eat, and and
Someone
things
got
go
to do
wrong.
meal prep
People
and
get
wash
sick,
the
yeah.
dishes,
And then also
laundry.
you've got to figure out this GAMSAT thing, and you've got to learn these topics, and you've got to learn these new skills. And so GAMSAT becomes as much about endurance and mindset as it is about the stuff that you're actually learning. And that's how it's different to uni, because uni tends to be a bit more, they're a lot more kind of accommodating. You can go in there with your sick notes and you get some credits, or you get a second chance to do the exam. In the GAMSAT, they don't care. They're ruthless. Ruthless. If you don't turn up on the day, if you're late, they won't let you in. And the GAMSAT, there's no tick box for, hey, I had a really rough time in the lead up to the exam. Can you go easy on me? Can you give me some credits? No, nothing at all. And so that mental kind of side of, that's why we even did a podcast on ADHD, because we know what a difference it makes, and we're really big on that as well. But those are some of the differences between GAMSAT and uni. And so then, with all that in mind, Marie, how do we actually get started the right way with our GAMSAT stuff?
All right, here's the good bit. We got to start with a diagnostic test. We got to actually get you doing a little bit of work. And now, look, this is going to be uncomfortable. You're not going to want to do the test. You're probably not even going to go that well. Don't care how you go. It's not about the percentage that you get. It's about looking behind every question and understanding, okay, did I get that wrong or right, and why? And what is the skill that's attached to that? Because when we can name the skill, we can actually improve it. We can find the strategies to help it. So what you want to think about, and I know I've talked about this on the podcast before, is I want you to think about it like you've broken your leg. Like, you don't break your leg, run into the emergency department, and then the doctor just glances your way and goes, Tom, get straight into surgery right now. No, they need to do an x-ray, see what's actually happening. And not any x-ray, not just like chuck you in the x-ray machine and see how you go. It's like they need to know with millimeter precision exactly what's happening. And then they're going to create a treatment plan based on what's really wrong, not just what they can see with their eyes, but what's going on inside. And so a diagnostic test is going to give you that clarity of what are the skills, what do I need to fix, where am I going well? Because there might be things you're going well with. Yay, let's celebrate that. And, where are the areas of maybe a little bit of improvement, and not doing it and being hard on yourself and going, well, I'm just so dumb, I'm never going to be a doctor. It doesn't matter how many areas of improvement that you have. All that matters is that you've identified them. Because once you've identified them, we can fix them. Everything is fixable. I think there's a lady called Marie Forleo. Is that her name, Tom? Marie Forleo. And she says everything is figure outable. Like, once we know what it is, we can figure it out. But first step is always a diagnostic. And I know, Tom, you're going to say right now, let's give him a diagnostic exam.
That's it. Yes. If you want a free diagnostic test for section 1 and for section 3, go to the show notes. They'll be around in the description of wherever you're listening or watching this, or you can just go to thankflipgamsat.com/episode 23, and it'll be in the show notes.
Just sit down and do it. It's not going to be the greatest hour and a half of your life, but it is going to allow you to achieve your dreams.
Yeah.
So if right
And then
now
at
you're
the end of
reading
that test,
widely,
it'll give you a list of topics and skills that you got to work on. Like it'll do the work for you. So it actually
I love it.
simplifies the whole process.
So at the beginning of this episode, when we said, hey, don't just dive in and do topics, this is what to do instead. So if you are just working on chemistry, biology, or physics right now, stop that, go and download the diagnostic and start to see the skills you need. That is step number one.
Second step is to look at the results of that test, look at what you got wrong and what you got right, and look at why you got the things wrong that you did. And like I said, you start making a list. Our diagnostic test will do that for you, but you then want to pull out that list and start and put that into your calendar and start ticking that off, working through it, because that's going to be the biggest bang for your buck in terms of the time you put in and how many marks you're going to get out. That is the second step. Pretty straightforward there. And then the other thing is really to kind of keep in mind when you're doing that is to not just go, oh, I need to learn physics, but rather we want to focus on being more specific and also focusing on skills, right? Like we said earlier, this is not just about memorizing content, right? Rather, it's about understanding the content so you can use it. But then even on top of that, it's the skills of being able to play with what you're given, to see what that content means, and then be able to interpret it in the way that the GAMSAT requires. Because you're going to be given, like we joked earlier, these crazy ass questions that don't make much sense, don't look like anything you've seen before, but you've got to work through it and make sense of it. So understanding the content and also skill development is going to be key. And again, if you want more on that, go to episode 3 of our podcast. Marie talks about, it's called How to Beat the Science Students at Their Own Game. And we talk about kind of the skills of reasoning to be able to stand out in the GAMSAT. And then
Whenever I speak to a
finally,
science student, Tom, I have to apologize for the title of that.
Oh yeah, look, if you're a science student, great, you're very welcome. You can beat the other science. How to beat the other science students at their own
Right?
game. That's for you, right?
But there's so many science students that don't go well in section 3,
Yeah.
and they're saying why, and I'm like, well, because you're not doing skill acquisition techniques. Like that's
This
what's
isn't like
really
a
happening.
science uni exam that you've spent 3 years doing. This is a GAMSAT. It's different.
I know, but then I kind of have to always apologize for that title because it's kind of funny. Like that was all you.
Hey,
I did not name it. I did not name it.
Yeah.
Now, I also know that there's lots of very diligent people who love to make a timetable. So it's like, I'm going to study 2 hours tonight, 3 hours the next night, take the next night off, and then I'm going to do an hour. And that is all great. I have no problems with a timetable. In fact, I love a timetable. I live by my diary and my calendar. If it's not in my calendar, it does not happen. However, we also want to make things outcome driven. I don't want to know, hey, I'm studying 2 hours tonight. What I want to know is, what the hell are you doing in those 2 hours? And are you going to have an additional skill before the 2 hours and after the 2 hours? Because it's not about the 2 hours. The GAMSAT isn't a test of how many hours you've studied. It's what skill you have. So I want to know, what are you doing to build a skill in that time? And is that enough time to build that skill, or at least get part of the way there? Because if building the skill takes 5 minutes, well, girl, oh boy, take 1 hour and 55 minutes off. Fantastic. Great. But if it takes more than 2 hours, then we've still got to keep on hustling and get it done, because it's not about the time. It's about the outcome. And outcome-based study has changed our students' lives, because you can track the hours. Hours are good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't study any hours. I'm saying you have to also track what you're doing within those hours.
Yeah, 2 minutes of GAMSAT study, 58 minutes of scrolling on Instagram.
Oh, I mean, so many people come to me and they're like, how many hours a week do I need to study? And I'm like, I don't know. How good are you at learning these skills? What are we going to do within the hours you have? Because for most people, I'm just going to use an example. For most people, they might go, hey, I've got 15 hours that I can study, like a couple of hours after work each day, and then like 1 full day on the weekend, and that's all that I can do. And I'm like, cool. It's not about the 15 hours. It's like, how are we going to make sure that you get it all done within the 15 hours, and to continually test and measure that you're making progress along the way? Because I don't want to get 1 month, 2 months, 3 months down the track and you to have been studying 15 hours a week and not have gotten any closer to getting any more practice questions right.
Yeah.
Like, I actually got off the phone today with a student, not my student, but someone who sat the GAMSAT 4 times. And in the 4 times, she studied her ass off for section 3. She got 49, 51, 52, and 53 in the science section. 1 mark. And I was like, she's like, I've dedicated so much time to the science section. I was like, you're doing the wrong
That's
stuff.
heartbreaking.
That is worse than than not doing it, you know, like.
It's not like, it's good that she did that, because there are tweaks we can make that's going to change everything.
Oh, for her, for sure.
Because she has put in all this time and all this effort. She's got it's almost like this built up energy or marks hiding, and we just need to pop open the door and they're going to come blowing out. And so I'm glad she's talking to us about that.
I had a heart failure when she said to me, like, oh, I'm just going to do more physics. I was like, you don't need more physics. Like, no, you know physics at this. And she's like, I know. And I was like, no, we've got to do skill acquisition stuff. So that's definitely one of the things. We want to do your diagnostic. You want to put it into a plan. You want to put it into a timetable. And then you want to do the work. I'm going to get close to the microphone. Do the work.
Yeah. And I know people will be going, yeah, but how many hours do I need to do?
I know.
And I get it. And look, I'll give you an answer for that. It's because in our boot camp, we're all about quality hours first, but then also the more of those hours, the better. And if you're working full time, or if you have uni, or if you have other things going on, you can't be doing 30, 40 hours a week. I mean, if you can, go for it. It'll just take you further. But at this point, with the September GAMSAT, we're telling our boot camp is going to be at least 15 hours. And you might be thinking, holy crap, how do I do that? Well, look, it's actually much easier than you realize. We have a resource called the Extra Study Day Advantage, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes, which can help you add an extra day's worth of. So it's called the Extra Study Day Advantage because it gives you an extra 8 to 10 hours of study time in your week. And if you're like, well, that'll give me probably 9 hours because I'm on one so far. Well, that's great. We can build up from there. The techniques that we show you there are things that you can keep using to keep increasing. Because look, you're studying for the GAMSAT, you're not going to get away with doing 2 hours a week. Right? It's not a hobby. You do need to commit some serious hours. This is medicine we're talking about, getting into medicine. So you do need to commit a certain amount. But like Marie's saying, the quality, it's not just about pounding through hours and going, well, I did the hours, I'll get the marks. It doesn't work that way. It needs to be a quality study, and then the more of that, the better. And yeah, there's that resource I'll put in the show notes. Extra.
Can I do a humble brag, Tom? Because like I remember putting that out, the Extra Study Day Advantage, and where I'm like, we're going to get 7 to 8 hours per week. If you watch the training and you do it, we'll find the hours in your time. My record, I believe, if I have it right, is I found someone, and let's just like put this into context. She works full time, said she had no time to do study. There was nothing like, no, I have no time, I've tried before, blah, 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 all the excuses. We found her 21 extra hours in her week.
Yeah, it's
That's
amazing.
my record.
I'll give you another example. Danny, he was an EDRN doing shift work, 38 hours, odd hours a week. So one night it might be working through the night, the next day doing an afternoon. So all over the place. And he went from doing 8 hours a week to doing over 20 hours a week while still doing the shift work, while doing the Extra Study Day Advantage and being able to not burn out as well. That's the other thing, right? Because you can try and squeeze it in and burn out, but the key is to be able to sustain it. And that's what that's about, sustainable study and getting you ready for the GAMSAT. And this kind of leads you into, like, we've been mentioning the different ways that we help our students. So if you want to know kind of how we work with our students, we'll take a minute now to kind of talk about the Bootcamp. Marie, what do you reckon?
Yeah. I mean, it's the place to be.
Yeah. So if you're interested, if you're curious, so we have a program that we offer. It's called the Bootcamp. It's online, and we support you through from start to finish, from where you are right now, whether you've done the GAMSAT before and you want to increase your score, or maybe you've never done it before, you don't know what to do, or maybe you've been studying for a little bit, it's not going the way that you want it to. We take you from that place to a place where you have a plan, the structure, the support, the resources, the guidance, the direction, you're doing the right stuff at the right time, and giving yourself the best chance of getting a great score in September or March. And so we implement what we're talking about here, where we start off with that diagnostic, which you can do that now to get rolling in the show notes. But when people join our bootcamp, that's the first thing we do with them as well.
Oh, everybody. Everybody does a proper diagnostic. There is no point in us creating or helping you create a personalized plan if it's based on somebody else's strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, that's it. And then that's the next step, is that personalized plan. We work with you to create that around your schedule, around your strengths and weaknesses, and we work in our resources, and we give you access to our educational library, which is online, and it's in the form of videos, downloadable PDFs. We also run online classes in the lead up to the GAMSAT, covering everything from section 1, 2, 3, GAMSAT mindset. We talk about how important that is.
These live classes, Tom, I have to just take a note, because we don't have to run live classes. We have everything in the education library. Like, if you're ready to go, you could do it. But I always say, and the students 1000% agree, you're going to work harder when I'm there than when I'm not there. It's real talk. You do. You work harder when I'm watching. But also, what I love about the live classes is that they are implementation classes. So, like, I remember my head tutor came to me and said, the intros for this cohort they're not particularly strong for their essays. And I was like, well, we've got to fix that. What are we going to do? And she's like, yeah, let's take one of the acceleration classes, that's what we call our live classes, and we will teach them how to do it like a banger of an intro, and then we're going to write 4 intros each, and we're going to pull them apart live. So you learn what the feedback is on your intros, 4 of them, and everybody else in their small group classes. So there's not like 3,000 people and you can't ask a question. Yeah. But you can actually get feedback. And so she did that.
There. It's all just support and help.
No, kind, loving feedback to help you improve. So you're improving in the class. So it's not like you watch a lesson and then you're like, oh yeah, I better go and do the thing. No, we do it with you. And when you leave, you're writing a better intro to your essay.
Doing that afterwards, ideally, right?
But, of course you're going to keep on doing it. But what I mean is, that's what I love about it. 1, you work harder. 2, you get it done there. And 3, you're in an environment where everybody's kind of working together and everybody pushes everyone up. I remember for the interviews when we were doing the live ones, there were 4 people we put into a small group together, and they were all going to interview at the same university. And I called one person after she had gotten in, and she was excited that she was in med, and she was more excited that 3 people from her group are going to be going with her. You're just like, oh my God, I can't believe we all did it. We all did it. And she was like, that to me is who's going to be a good, amazing, kind-hearted, empathetic, compassionate doctor. That's who you're with. So anyway, I thought it was worth mentioning just because it's so good.
We record them as well. So if people have a shift that night, that's fine. We record them and upload them so that you can
heads up. Of course you're going to have a shift that night.
Yeah.
No one comes to every single thing all the time.
And that's why we have catch-up classes as well, where we kind of just consolidate, make sure you're on the right track. And like Maria was saying, you're going to do more when you know someone's there or someone's checking in on you. We have that as part of the bootcamp as well, our accountability process, where each week we've got someone checking in with you, supporting you, answering your questions, making sure that you're on the right path. So we've designed this specifically for nurses and healthcare professionals who are busy, who want to make that transition into medicine, but they've got other things going on as well. And we even have some science students who sneak in there as well.
I love my little science bunnies too. Come on.
Yeah, they're amazing. We're always happy to help science students and others as well. But it's essentially made for busy people who have stuff going on and want to be able to manage this as well. And
What
so
you mean? No
the bootcamp
one
covers-
like. I was going to say, Tom, it's like no one only has GAMSAT as their only thing going on in their life. Within our program, like most people are juggling full-time work, kids, husbands, wives, significant others, the list.
There's a variation of all those, in most people. That's it. And so then there's the GAMSAT. We help you with that. We also have our applications and interview bootcamp, and Marie kind of touched on that earlier. And if you recently did your applications, you'd know that they're complicated as hell, and it's not as easy as you put your scores in and the best thing that could happen does happen. It's not. If you put your preferences wrong, you'll miss out completely, even if you have the right marks. So we support you in that, and our interview bootcamp as well. So Marie touched on that last year. Every single bootcamp, GAMSAT bootcamper who got an interview and did our interview bootcamp, they got into medicine, all of them. Right? So so we support you through that.
Don't be modest, Tom. You were an interviewer once. That helps a lot. Yeah. Now, obviously, they don't give us the questions, so I always make sure that's clear.
We do one better than that. We give you the system and the process to answer any question they throw at you. So that's kind of the secret as to why everyone was so successful.
Yeah, of course. Like, that's the place to be. I love it.
Cool. All right. So if you want to know more about the bootcamp and have a chat with Marie or one of our team about, how it works, whether it's appropriate for you in your situation, how the investment works, etc., go to the link in the show notes. It's a conversation that you'll have with our team, and they'll have a quick chat with you over like 10-15 minutes just to see if we can help you or not, is a good fit or not. And if not, then hey, no hard feelings. They'll help you where they can. They'll let you know politely, and then you'll do that. And if they think that we can help you, you'll tell them more about your preparation and what you're hoping to achieve with the GAMSAT, and we'll go from there. But so that's it for today. You guys have a bunch of great resources in the show notes. Thank you for that, Marie.
Thank you. What an episode. I'm excited. Let's get moving with these diagnostic exams. If you are procrastinating, if you haven't gone and downloaded them already, go and do it now.
You have everything you need right there. You have it all there. We've given it to you. There's no reason not to do it. Schedule the time into your calendar right now. We'll go to there now, get the link, and schedule it into your calendar. And good luck. Let us know if you have any questions. And we'll see you in the next one.
Have a good one. Bye for now. Hey, I have a cool gift for you, just for listening to the Nurses Doing GAMSAT podcast. We do some of our best work in our Facebook group called, you guessed it, Nurses Doing GAMSAT. It's free to join, and every day we're sharing actionable guides, tips and tricks, and really just how to smash the exam and get into medicine. You can join today by searching Nurses Doing GAMSAT on Facebook. Thanks for listening to another episode, and I'll see you next time.